G'day, welcome to the Out There channel. I hope everybody's been well. Remember to support me by removing your ad blocker on this channel. Thank you.
In this episode I want to talk about the UFO sighting I had. I live in an area where we get a lot of planes that fly over. The airport's probably 20 minutes drive away. So I'm used to recognising what planes look like with the usual three lights with the one blinking and different colours and the flying patterns. But one night this light just stood bright in the sky on an overcast night where you couldn't see any other stars in the sky apart from this light, which I thought was very odd. And it had been stationary in the sky for the time that I was walking the dog that night. I couldn't even see the moon, believe it or not. This is very strange. So when I got home, I grabbed my tablet. It's a Samsung, and I thought I could probably zoom in on the light. But it's the first time I tried to use the tablet at night time. So it didn't come out too great. But you can see in the video, when I zoom back, that it's a street lamp, and next to it is this light in the sky. I'm always looking up in the sky when I'm walking, because everybody I know around me has seen UFOs, and I'm still yet to see a confirmed one myself. Now when I saw the light, to me it looked like it was three lights close together. That's why I thought it was very odd that it wasn't a plane and it wasn't moving. And because we get also helicopters, I didn't think it was a helicopter, and I couldn't hear any sound of planes or helicopters, because normally you can even hear the planes miles away. I went inside after recording and grabbed my father and told him to have a look at this light. He said straight away that it's Venus, and he saw it there the other night. So I thought I'd better confirm whether it was Venus, so I installed this app from Google Play. I think it might have been called Google Sky or similar to that. And I held up the tablet to the sky, and sure enough, Venus on the app lined up with this light in the sky. So I was very disappointed. But it just goes to show that sometimes Venus can fool you, and why you have to investigate things properly. The thing is, even the stars that were next to Venus you couldn't see in the sky. Now this light must have been so bright, or it must have had some breakage in the clouds just where this light was, but it was there for hours. So it was a very strange sighting indeed. I think it's the time in the year when Venus is closest to where I'm at, and so the light is brighter in the sky. This goes to show that you could easily fake UFO sighting videos. If you see here in the video, the street lamp, even midway up, you can't see the post because it's so dark, and you could just see this orange round sort of bright light, which could be represented as a UFO, with a smaller bright light that is Venus next to it, as being a smaller craft next to it, like a mothership, and its baby UFO next to it. Now I've seen plenty of satellites in the sky. They always seem to cross the same part of the sky as well, but one particular night, probably 20 years ago, I saw this particular brighter light than a normal satellite would be head towards a different direction. Now I didn't have any camera or video on me at that time, but it would have been nice to capture it and then do some analysis on it. And back in those days we didn't have luxuries of tablets or phones with cameras and apps that can map the stars and whatnot, where you aim in the tablet in the sky using the GPS. Over the years I've heard various stories of UFO sightings from family, friends and work colleagues. Now the most interesting one I heard was from some German friends of ours who were looking out the back of their house having a cigarette. They lived next to this big forest and saw the typical classic saucer lift out from the trees and just hang in the sky there for about 10 minutes before it suddenly took off vertically at extreme speed and seemed to blend in with the stars and look like a star until they could see it no longer. Another story I heard was someone that was living up near Auckland, New Zealand, and they had a house next to the seaside. When they looked out and saw this huge mothership, as he called it, with flashing lights, a bit like you would have seen in the Phoenix lights, with these little lights zooming up from the sea and near coast into the craft itself. Now, I joked with him, asking him, "Are you sure it wasn't squid boats reflecting off low-level clouds?" Because that was the excuse used for that massive UFO sighting in New Zealand that made the news in 1978, I think it was. And he said, no way, it was a solid craft, and it had like an Independence Day with the little UFOs going inside it. I find it hilarious that these skeptics said it was Venus or light reflections from boats at sea reflecting off clouds, when they had 2 radar hits on this particular craft, which they later also debunked as saying that the radar systems in those days were faulty and were often creating ghost images. So there doesn't seem to be any way that you can convince some people. Now, my father admitted, because he's a skeptic, that he was fishing one day at one of the rivers when this bright white light, it went zigzagging past over top of the river in front of him until it disappeared out of sight. Then I have another friend who was up at Kaikoura, where a big quake recently happened in New Zealand. That's got a lot of forest and valleys there. Now, I don't know if it was what they call an earth light, or a big glowing massive plasma ball, but he said this particular orb sphere went zooming past them while they were hunting in this valley, and all the creatures suddenly went quiet, and once the UFO went past out of the valley, all the creatures started humming and singing and all that again. Now, what's interesting about his sighting was he said it was round about that time of the big UFO sighting that appeared on the news in 1978. Now, what was interesting, his mate promised him not to tell anyone about this sighting, so it never got reported. Now, this makes me wonder if this little sphere orbs are actually probes that the mothership sends out to scan areas for research of some sort. But again, all these sightings I have mentioned, nothing has been ever reported officially. So this makes you wonder how many people see UFOs, or what they call UAPs, to their authorities, because they don't want to be laughed at. So there's probably millions of sightings every year that go unreported. There are a few more friend sightings. I'm just trying to recall what the stories were. There was a woman in Australia who were going along a long highway out in nowhere land, when this light from the sky come down in front of the road in front of him and hovered and then took off again. And I asked her, perhaps more happened that she doesn't realise, and maybe she was abducted, but she didn't want to talk about it. Let's see, there was another UFO sighting by another friend who said they saw the classic triangle, black triangle, hovering in the sky somewhere in New Zealand. Well, I'll leave it there on the sightings that I know and heard about. If I think about any more, I will add them to future episodes. I will finish up with this news report about Buzz Aldrin. Again, thanks for visiting my channel and please subscribe. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope to do one at least each week on the UFO or UAP subject. I will also bring various news items of interest. If you've got any UFO sighting that you'd like me to present in an episode, feel free to email me a link to it, to a hotbox or Dropbox or whatever it's called. It can't be someone else's video, it has to be your own video where you can give me permission to use it and discuss it, because of copyright rules at YouTube here. Well, it's been a pleasure talking to you again. Until next time, stay good.